So if you've ever studied your birth chart in astrology and you've wondered, okay, if this is supposed to show the events that take place in my life, my personality, my career goals, things like that, then how do I know when all of that stuff is going to happen? So I want to talk about the difference between what the natal promise is and how we know when those certain events in our life are going to come to fruition. So if you think of the birth chart as basically a bucket of, let's say, like bingo balls or lottery balls, and when you are born, you get a bucket full of bingo balls that all have different events. One says get married, one says have kids, one says become a lawyer, one says get in a car crash, one says, okay, this ball says that I'm going to end up having a chronic illness, or I'm going to end up winning the lottery. So if you picture that ball and you just get this bucket basically saying, like, here's all your life events. It's all just jumbled up in here. That's kind of what this birth chart is. And we call that the natal promise. This chart just in the middle here basically shows, yes, it shows all of the different events and things that are going to happen to you and your personality, but what it doesn't say without looking at other techniques is when do these things occur or what spurs these events to occur. So this is where predictive techniques and transits and other timing techniques come in so that we can figure out, okay, well, you've got this big bucket of bingo balls and they all have these different personality traits and different events in your life that are promised to you by your natal chart, hence why we call it the natal promise. You always have to go back to the birth chart, because if it's not shown in your birth chart, if that energy isn't shown in your birth chart, it's not going to be on one of those ping pong balls. It's not going to be listed there. So you can't, if your chart doesn't show the energy of somebody who will go on to become very successful in race car driving, that's not in your natal promise. So again, you always have to be, you kind of are limited to your natal promise, although that can manifest in so many different ways. But you always have to, in order to figure out when those things are going to come to fruition, you got to use other techniques. We have a bunch of different timing techniques. The most common of which is just looking at the transits of where the planets are currently. If this is, the natal promise is where the stars were and the planets were when you were exactly born, the transits are where they are now. Those are the green planets on the outside. It shows where the planets are transiting in relation to your birth chart at this given moment. So that's one timing technique. We also have things like zodiacal releasing, annual perfection years. I mean, there's a long list of different techniques, but I just wanted to kind of explain the difference between when somebody is reading your chart, they can look at it basically and do what we would call a natal chart reading or a natal promise reading, which will show you yes, I think that, this person's going to be a really good mother. This person's going to have kids someday. Or, you've got Mercury in Aquarius conjunct your midheaven, but it's square Saturn. You're probably very smart, very innovative, but you sometimes question yourself, you doubt yourself. So these are personality traits, but again, when we want to look at events and timing, that's where the techniques come in, the timing techniques. So I hope that this helped explain a little bit more about what do we do when we look at our birth chart? How do we make sense of all this, this bucket of balls here that have all these things promised to us, but we don't know when the heck they're going to come to us?